Hey everyone. Hello. Hey, hi, hello. Welcome back to Finance Rocks. I'm Roxanne. Today's topic is going to be action planning for our 2023 goals. And this is a good way to make sure that you achieve your new goals because it's great to take a look at your goals and say, um, you know, I want to save X dollars as an emergency fund. I want to pay X dollars of debt. But then I always encourage my clients and you guys to take it one step further than that and saying, how am I going to achieve this? And even getting more specific with the goals that you set. So instead of saying my goal is to save $12,000 this year as an emergency fund, that's a great intention and that is a goal that you can work towards. But how do you really do that when you think about it? The way that you're going to actually do it is either earning more money or cutting your spending or some combination of the two. So if you have so if your intention is to save $12,000 towards an emergency fund this year, then you can break it up and say, which means I need to earn X dollars more from my business and I need to cut, you know, $500 of spending from my budget each month. So that's one step down, and then you can take that even further. Well, how am I gonna save $500 per month? How am I gonna cut that spending? You might say, I'm going to restrict dining out to $50 or once per week or whatever kind of number you wanna give it. Um, and so let's see. So yeah, so breaking down your goals into more manageable pieces is going to be the first thing that I go into in more depth. And then for the rest of the outline, it'll be tips for changing your habits and routines, since that's quite difficult. Creating a fall off the wagon plan and getting started paying off debt and saving an emergency fund. So, like, first things that you can do. Before I get into that, I did have one quick announcement. I have been setting up my 2023 money journal, and I have some extra room in here. So I was going to offer for free, if you guys want some external public accountability, that you can let me know and I can reserve pages in here to track your data. So like I have in here my budget, my spending by category, my no spend days, net worth. If I had debt to pay off, I would definitely have like a debt pay down tracker. So this is what I use for tracking all of that. And how it would work would be you can email me at rocks@financerocks.com. I'll include that right there. Let me know if you're interested. And how it would work is, you would track whatever statistics you pick, maybe pick one or two of those, and I'll list them in the description of this video. But picking one or two things that you want to track. And then on the third day following the month that closes, then you would send me your data. You can do that by email or I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Those would all be fine. Then I will take your data, update the tracker in here, and then by the 7th, I'll post a video showing your changes and probably giving feedback or kudos on the information that you gave me. And then I'll send you the link. So that way you can have your progress tracked throughout the year. Now, for right now, I'm just doing the first quarter. So I figured 12 months is a long time to kind of commit to it for you guys. So I figured just for the first 3 months. So you would send me your information on February 3rd, March 3rd, and April 3rd. If you're interested in that, let me know. And like I said, it's free for now. And I think it's a good way to get feedback on what you're doing. And I've heard other YouTubers say that having their channel is so good for their goals. Like, it is so motivating for them to post their progress on debt payoff specifically, but saving money in general as well. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe I can pass that benefit on to you guys by, sharing your stuff publicly as well. Hi, we have a few people in the chat. Cecilia, welcome. I love your public accountability idea. Thank you so much. Yeah, I thought it would be super fun. And, I don't have debt to pay off. So I don't have that spread right now. But I was like, oh, I should have that. So that way you guys can see what it would look like. And then, yeah, you get the benefit of having your stuff tracked as well. Andrew's here. Hello, Andrew. He says, I would sign up for the planner thing, but pulling a mad scientist and allowing myself to spend more money for 1 year by expanding my experien- experiential wealth. Experiential? Due to being at Coast Fi and not interested in RE. Congrats on being Coast Fi, by the way. I don't know that I knew that you crossed that officially. So that's awesome, Andrew. Cool. Pulling a mad scientist. That's funny. Okay, so, and I didn't really put a deadline for when to sign up for that. Um, I mean, really up until February 3rd, you could, but I think if it's better if you guys let me know like in the next week or two. It's currently January 2nd. So just wanted to share that really quick before getting into it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to go over is breaking down your goal into smaller pieces. Let's see here. Breaking down your goal into smaller, more manageable pieces. So I wanted to start this by saying one time I set a goal to do a handstand. I didn't really start doing it until mid-December of that year. I remembered that I had set it. So I started working on that goal, hurt my wrist because I'm trying to do too much in the last 2 weeks of the year. Um, so I wanted to mention that because that's a good example of what not to do with our goals, right? And I'm sure you guys have experienced that too, where you set a goal and then, you might not even remember that you set it, or you remember really late into the year and you're like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that when you're setting your next year's goals. So, in order to prevent that, one of the things I recommend is breaking your goal down based on time frame. And there's a book it's called The 12-Week Year, which is great. It's a nice short little read. And they talk about this too, how 12 months, our brains almost go into this like, oh, I don't really need to do anything because I have 12 whole months to do it, so I can do it in the future. Versus if you have a shorter time frame, like 3 months, or 12 weeks is the same. But if you have a shorter one, 1 month, or, three, then you're like, oh, I need to get going on this because I don't have that much time. So thinking about different time frames for goal setting. And again, there's nothing wrong with setting that big intention of like save 12,000 per year for my debt payoff. Um, that's good and fine, but if you can narrow it down based on time frame and then focus on that time frame, because the other thing that can happen is it can feel overwhelming, right? And that might be another reason that we don't take action on our goals, is if we're like, oh my gosh, I need to save $12,000. That's so much. Like that's such a I don't even make that much. So breaking it down into $3,000 in 3 months or $1,000 this month can make it feel a lot less overwhelming. And then that helps us keep going on those goals as well. So Cecilia says, I'm trying to find my 2022 Roth while also starting to fund 2023 Roth. Okay, great. Yes, you can, like Cecilia is saying, you can actually fund your 2022 IRA contributions up until the tax deadline this year. So that's great that you're doing the previous one and getting ready to go for the next one. Andrew says, better late than never. Okay, that is true. Fair point. I will admit that. I think you're referring to like the handstand thing, like, oh, better late practicing than never. True. But if I could have started in January, you see what I'm saying? Like it would have been better and I would probably be less likely to hurt myself. Um, so yeah, breaking it down based on time frame and then try to, forget about it, as they say, right? Like set that big goal, $12,000 or whatever it is for you, the annual version of what you want. And then try and really just forget about that number and focus on the smaller increments as you go throughout the year. So another thing, So getting more specific, I mentioned that. Okay, Andrew did say yes on the handstand. Okay. um, so getting more specific with how you will save however much you want per month, and whether that's for debt payoff or saving for emergency funds or retirement or whatever it is you're working towards. Um, I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, but saying instead of saying I'm going to save $1,000, what does that really mean? Is that something you can just do in a day? Not really. So getting very specific with what things you're going to do. And I like to break this into two sections: the tasks you need to do to achieve this and the habits that you need to achieve this. So then the tasks are, things like, oh, I need to call this company and get my balance, or um, you know, I need to set up this new bank account, for example. Those would be the tasks involved in order to accomplish it. And then what habits do you need to accomplish it? So on a day to day basis, you might say, I'm going to save $100 per month by limiting my dining out to just once per week, or whatever you set up. And you can almost frame it, instead of saying $1,000 per month, you can say, I'm going to do this to save 50. I'm going to do this to save 200. I'm going to do this to save 500. You can pick the categories, whether it's coming from food and dining, entertainment, if it's coming from clothing budget. You can get really specific with where you're going to cut to make that happen. And same thing with if you want to earn more in order to accomplish your goals as well. You might say, instead of saying, I want to save $1,000 from my business or from work or I want to earn $1,000 more, sorry. So instead of saying that, you can say, I'm going to call 10 clients a day, or whatever your metrics are for success. There's a really good example of this. I believe it's Hal Elrod. I don't know if you guys are familiar. He wrote the book Miracle Morning, and I think it was him, but the story is that they were a Cutco salesman, so selling knives, which is actually something I did too, oddly enough, in college. Very briefly. But this guy, he realized that instead of setting a goal to like sell X number of dollars of knives, he looked at his statistics and found that excuse me, that he was actually, if he made X number of calls, he made X number of dollars. So like statistically, oh my goodness, a little frog in my throat. I always forget to drink water while I'm on here, and then I talk a lot. So figuring out the metrics that are driving the outcomes, right? Oh my goodness, you guys. So, for your finances, it might be times that you go out, number of phone calls that you make at your work, or things that you can do to get a raise or promotion, like asking your boss what it would take for you to get to that next position. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that's making sense on getting more specific with your goals. Because I hear people set those goals all the time, like, I want to save $1,000 per month, which is wonderful. But digging into it a little bit more and coming up with a more defined plan, I think is very helpful for people. So some other examples for like money habits, you might say, well, a habit I need to accomplish this is to track my spending and track my finances once per week. So that might be a habit that you have in support of some of your goals. And you will find that sometimes the goals, the habits and tasks that you come up with might support multiple goals, which is great. It's great when there's like synergy between the things that you're doing, driving you towards multiple positive outcomes. So, and it's not always money and money, but for example, if you're trying to be less wasteful, like less plastic waste, and you're trying to save money, you might do things like trying to limit the amount of food waste you create. Because if you create less food waste, that means you're eating a higher percentage of, you're getting more value for money. for when you're spending money there. So you can, it's supporting both of your goals, right? So coming up with those things where you have good synergy between your different goals and different things you want to accomplish is going to be very helpful. Because then you have even more reason to do it, right? Because if you're like, "Oh, I'm feeling tired, I'm behind on my money goal, so I'm not really that motivated to do that anyway," you might be like, "Well, it's good for my sustainability goal as well." So, that kind of thing. Another one, kind of along those same lines, is, like, checking your CRISPR every day. So, I did this for a while when I was trying to cut back food waste. I don't know what do you guys call it? CRISPR, where you put your fruits and vegetables in the drawers in the refrigerator? Um, I don't know. I think it's called a crisper, but so checking that, like, just the act of opening it and looking at it every day, like, creating that habit was really helpful for me in making sure that we threw out less food due to spoilage. Walking more versus driving. So, walking in between errands while you're out shopping or, just walking to work. Some people are able to do that. Um, Kind of the same thing with like the good synergy between your goals. You might be trying to be healthier and save money. So think about those habits that you're wanting to add in a way that can actually support multiple aims. Cecilia, my biggest issue is not setting the boundaries with friends, such as only having $20 left in my eating out budget, but then going out and spending twice that much or more. Okay, yeah, thanks for sharing that. Friends are tough because that's external, right? You don't have full control over them. So, things that I like to do for this, and if you guys want to share in the comments if you have any other ideas for Cecilia, um, eating before I go out was something I did a lot, especially when I was paying off debt and like really aggressively attacking my goals. That's one thing that you can do. You can do that in combination with like only ordering an appetizer, or I would do, like, only water for beverage, like, I wouldn't get, like, a soda or, um, no dessert. So these things aren't that fun, right? But, hopefully that's helpful for you, like, some ideas on kind of habits or rules you can create for yourself to make that situation a little easier, because hanging out with your friends is good. It's good for your mental health. Um, Another thing that I would do would be, like, inviting people over, doing, like, potluck style hangouts instead of going out to eat. Um, so trying to set yourself up for success in that way, like, counter offering if they say, "Hey, do you wanna go out?" Saying, "Oh, well, maybe we could still hang out, but maybe we can do something else, do it in a different way that is not gonna break your, food budget," if you know what I mean. So yeah, that's a really good example. There's lots of creative things that you can do, and sometimes even like talking to your friends and trying to get them on board, letting them know that you have these goals that you're working on. Most of the people in my life have been very supportive of my like frugality. Usually, people do say something like, "Oh yeah, actually, I'd like to cut back on my food spending as well," and so then you actually can find people that will actually encourage you even more to, make those financial changes that you wanna make, so, really good example. Let's see. Now, it's hard to know all the time if these little tiny things that you're doing are gonna make a big enough impact to achieve the goal, right? Because if you set a goal, like if Cecilia, you say, "I'm gonna go out, but every time I won't get a beverage or a dessert." It's kind of hard to say how much you'll save, right? Because you're probably going out not at a very, like, consistent basis, right? Like, sometimes it's kind of like, "Oh, yeah, we should do something on Saturday." So it's hard to know how much that will save you, and I just try to build all these little things up because I under the assumption that all of these little steps that I take are all steps in the right direction. If I'm always taking steps in the right direction, even if they're little tiny steps, I will get to where I'm going, right? So, I've talked a little bit in the past about, you set a big goal. What do you do if you don't achieve it? And so one of the common things that I do is just push it. Like my no buy year, I failed it in March of last year. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'll just keep going on this for 3 months after December because it's still a worthwhile goal. I still want to try to do a no buy year for these particular things. So just extending that deadline because, you know, we're still going to take little steps to get there going in the right direction. Okay, so let's move on. If you guys have any questions about that one, let me know. So that was breaking down your goal into pieces. Now I have a few tips for you guys for habits and routines. So you want to try to make it easier on yourself. Whatever you're trying to accomplish, we want to think of ways to make it easier and quicker for us to accomplish. A lot of the times people will tell me, "Oh, I don't have time to do all these things for my finances." Um, but really, you want to have it so that it is quick and easy, so that way you're more likely to do it. Um, and then you can have extended routines when you happen to have more time. So, you should have a super simplified, you can do it in 15 minutes per week money management setup. And then, if you have more time, then maybe you have a list of like, okay, if I have extra time, I'll do these extra things. Or, you want to try to make it easier on yourself as much as you can. Now, sometimes that hour is required, right? Sometimes there's just things that you have to do, making a phone call for something for like checking a like a fraudulent purchase, something like that. But thinking of ways that you can make it easier. So one thing you want to do is look at your environment for this. And so the prompt I have for here is, in what ways does my environment help me achieve these goals? And in what ways is my environment working against me or making it more difficult? So think of this as like if you have if a box to take to the post office. I don't know about you, I leave those boxes in front of the door, like in front of the door, so that way I literally have to move the package in order to open the door to get out, right? So I'm putting it in my environment in a way that I literally will trip over it if I don't, you know, um, pick it up. So it's a reminder to myself using like a physical place. And so, you might do this for your goals, things like removing your credit card from your wallet. If you're trying to pay down debt, you don't want to be putting more on your credit card. And so taking that credit card out of your wallet is a good one. Removing it from online stores. So wherever you online shop, you can remove your credit card information. So that way there's just like one additional step that you have to do in order to purchase. And I guess I should have said you want to think of it in the positive and negative. So if you have good goals that you're trying to, so let's see here. Think of things you can do to make it easier and better, and what things can you do to make it bad habits more difficult. And so this is actually from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, which I highly recommend. I love that book. And so he talks about making, things you want to do easier and things you're trying to avoid more difficult. So like taking the credit card out is an example of making it a little bit more difficult to do that bad thing bad. It's objective, but subjective. But you know what I mean. Um, you might even like change your driving route to avoid, certain triggers. Like if you always drive past a store that you really like, and then a lot of the times you stop and go shopping, like you can change your route a little bit home from work so that way you don't have to drive by it. Let's see, some other examples. I like to have a visual reminder in my environment of my goals. Now, this can be like a vision board, or I have some like index cards right now that have mini pictures and stuff on them that I'm using as my vision board since we're traveling now. So having some kind of reminder, very common other ones that people do are like writing on your mirror, writing some reminders on your mirror to yourself for what you want to accomplish. Sticky notes, putting those in your all over your environment. So that might be your house, car, your office at work, um, all the different anywhere that you regularly are where you might need a reminder because one of the big obstacles to our goals is forgetting that they exist, that we want to accomplish them, right? Like we were talking about before, where you forget you're trying to learn how to do a handstand until December, conveniently. So that's really all I had on the tips for your habits and routines. Do you guys have any questions about that? Let me take another drink of water. Because it's hard. It is hard to make new habits, change existing habits, all those things. Okay, feel free to still put in the comments if you have anything, but moving on to 2.5. I added this one after the fact because I realized I forgot to mention it. So what you want to do is identify what obstacles you'll have for accomplishing this goal. So what are the things most likely to cause failure? So that's the prompt for you. Thinking about what your internal and external limitations are. So external limitations, things like, if you have children and you're like, "Oh, I need my partner to watch the kids while I do this." It's identifying some external help that you need. Um, and then it can be internal things too, like whenever my account reaches a certain balance, then I feel tempted to spend it. That's an obstacle, right? That's something that might throw you off when you're trying to accomplish this goal. So some common obstacles. I wrote down right here. Things like having enough time, right? Having enough time to do everything, not having a system in place currently for tracking your spending and managing your money. Um, and it might even be something like you have a stack of mail that you haven't opened that you've been avoiding because you know that it has like past due bills, that kind of thing. So whatever obstacles come to mind, messy desk, that's one of the ones that I have. Like that's an obstacle I have for managing money because when I sit down at my desk, it's a mess and then I don't feel like doing anything. Um, so thinking about what your obstacles are. And there's another really good book. Okay, apparently this is just all book recommendations for you guys. But it's called Obstacle is the Way, and it's by Ryan Holiday. He does like stoicism teachings and stuff. And he talks about how a lot of the times the obstacles that we have actually become the most important thing that we can do in order to accomplish something or be the kind of person we want to be or whatever. Um, it's easy to shy away from obstacles or try and find a workaround. But a lot of the times, like conquering whatever um, it is the path forward. I guess that's kind of the definition of an obstacle, right? It's in your way when you're trying to go somewhere. So, overcoming obstacles is what we're going to do with the falling off the wagon plan. So, we're going to take these obstacles that you just identified and think of ways that we can overcome those obstacles or minimize their impact. So, for each thing that you came up with as an obstacle, thinking about how you can overcome that obstacle or what you'll do if that obstacle pops up. Now, I call this my fall off the wagon plan, like, "Help, I've fallen off the wagon and I can't get up." But, if I fall off the wagon, I will dot, dot, dot. So I literally write that at the top of my page and then brainstorm what things I'll do if things go awry, So it's not just like the obstacles we were thinking about, it's anything that happens that we need to overcome, anything that has gotten us off track. So It's things like if you're like, "Okay, I'm going to log my spending every day," and then you miss a week. Maybe you got sick or you had a work trip, whatever the reason is, you're off track from what you had set. So, what things can you do to get back on track? I have some of mine are like message my girlfriends for encouragement, like admit that I fell off the wagon. Um, oh, and I should say, this is backed up by like scientific research. I read an article one time that was talking about how you can accomplish your goals, and it said people that do this brainstorming exercise are like way more likely to achieve their goals. Something about like how um, we once it happens, we know what to do because we've thought about it in advance. So planning out, what the real life world will throw at us, right? Because it's very likely that we're going to have a trip. It's very likely that we're going to have tired days. And so coming up with a plan for those to account for those is really helpful. So, sorry, needed to say that before I hopped in. So, messaging my girlfriends, um, scheduling a hangout with them, a co-working actually. And I've done this before, like meet up at a coffee shop and then we'll do like work sprints. So, we chat at first and then we'll do like a work sprint and then hang out and chat for the rest of it. So, 30 minutes or an hour, working together. So that's just like a fun little way to make a little progress. And then I still have like some external accountability with my buddies. And then, it makes it a little easier to start getting my momentum back towards whatever I'm working on. Um, let's see here. Doing a no spend challenge. This is one of my favorite ones. If I fall off track, if I'm spending a lot of money, I'll be like, "Oh man, I need to do a no spend challenge." So I'll schedule even just like a 2-day no spend challenge can like usually it's just the thing to get me back on track and like focused and motivated. Um, Now I do encourage you to not use no spend challenges as punishment for yourself. I know it can be tempting to be like, "Oh, I spent all this money and I shouldn't have, so now I can't spend any." Um, so that's one thing to think about. You might use it for in other scenarios, but um, returning something, like maybe canceling an order or returning something if you've been spending money and you're like, "Ooh, I should not have been doing that." Um, let's see, some of my other ones, um, clean up. That's always like a good go-to if like I need a reset for any of my goals. And a lot of our financial goals, are kind of rooted in our house. It's things like, you have a certain habit of where you sit down and you do your online shopping, or it's those all those kitchen habits that cause us to want to order food instead of eating in. um, not shopping consistently, not shopping with a list, forgetting things at the store. um, there's all kinds of things that we can. I've lost my train of thought. Cecilia, I saw that you said, "I'm terrible at no spend challenge, would like to get better at that." What's the longest you've ever done? Have you done like a one day? I'll tell you the longest I've ever done is 3 weeks. And so I think a lot of the times people think, "Oh, you're gonna do a no spend challenge for like 6 months or something," but I really encourage people to make it really tiny. Do 1 day, challenge yourself, pick a day of the week, like starting on Sunday, say, "Oh, I'm gonna do Thursday," and then do that 1 day, and then the next time pick a 2-day one. That's what I say. 1 day, good, okay, yeah, that's fine, so do 2. So look at your calendar and pick 2 days, set a reminder for yourself, and I would even, like, go shopping on the day before your no spend, which might seem counterproductive because then you're like, "I'm spending the money anyway," but I still find that when I go that time without spending, it still does the job of resetting my habits, and, um, I only did 3 days in November and 2 days in December. Okay, well, it's a starting spot. It's good. It's good because when you do these, right, it really brings to your attention your habits. Like, if before you did that, were you like, "Oh, yeah, I definitely spend money every day?" Maybe you were, but, on what things and when, and what are the thoughts that you have that lead to needing to spend? When you're doing a no spend, it just tends to make you aware of those, right? So, um, yeah, I think that, so what kind of things do you buy every day? Things come up. Okay, perfect. You already were replying. Something comes up like cat food or kid stuff. So you're making trips to the store every day? Is this mostly like grocery, um, store spending? Do you buy in bulk? One thing I do as well is, I try and shop less frequently and spend more money, which seems wrong, right? Because, you're used to going and spending a certain amount of money and you're like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna try to spend less." But if you're trying to go to the store less often, whether you're doing it for the purpose of no spend challenges, or to just avoid like impulse purchases, because every time we're there, that's more opportunities for impulse purchases, right? Um, so go less often to the store, but buy more. So like buying bigger increments, spending more money than you would normally spend to get those things like cat food, because that's a good one that you can buy in bulk or buy in bigger quantities. Um, let's see. So you say it's groceries and eating out makes sense. Or teens ask for gas money, sure. And defining a no spend day is flexible as well. I think a lot of people say, "Oh, it's either spend 0 or nothing." But I've done lots of no spend challenges where I'm like, "I wanna make some progress on my goals. I'm gonna set this week aside, um, but I already have this lunch planned on Thursday with my girlfriends." So I'll still say I'm still gonna do a no spend except that one Thursday lunch. Um, so you can structure your no spend however you want. Like, is giving your kids gas money a luxury thing for you to do? Kind of. You can still work that into your no spend. Like, okay, I'm gonna do a no spend challenge, but I'm still gonna allow myself to give my kids gas money. And you can even do groceries. You can say, I'm gonna do no spend except those things. So it's still gonna accomplish that goal of, like, taking a break from that fun spending, right? Fun discretionary spending. It's gonna make you very aware of what habits you're doing, so that way what habits you have around spending, make you more aware of them, and then you can use that time to brainstorm other things. And no spend challenges are a great way to save time as well. The average American shops like 45 minutes a day. So if you're just not even spending that time shopping, that's still a huge win um, for your finances and other goals. So hopefully that helps, Cecilia. Thank you for sharing. You're great. All right. So we talked about, oh, yes, falling off the wagon. So if I fail to do my habit or task, I will dot, dot, dot. Another one that I really like to do is flipping through my goals. So, getting a refresher on my goals and my vision board. What kind of things do I want to accomplish? Phone a friend, just calling someone, talking to them about how, hey, I stopped doing my financial tracking and it's really important to me. So, just revisiting those things are great things to do for your fallen off the wagon plan. Um, let's see. All right, let's switch to number 4. How are we doing on time? Good. So that was falling off the wagon. Okay, a few tips for getting started on um, paying off debt and saving money. Oh, Mind Your Money's here. Hello. Oh, nice to see you. I need to do more live streams. All right, so getting started, paying off debt and saving an emergency fund. I say one of the best things that you can do when you're very first getting started, and if you haven't done this, you should do it, is calculating your net worth. It's a great way to see the overall big picture of your finances. Calculating your net worth, it's like a snapshot in time. It's like, as of today, here's where I am. Now, I'll warn you guys, a lot of the times it's hard to look at our net worth if a lot of people have negative net worth because of debt. And so, just remind yourself that your net worth isn't your self-worth. Now, that's not an expression that I came up with. I don't know who to credit that to actually, but it's not try not to think of it as a negative reflection on yourself. Try and think of it as a fact of where you are right now with your finances. So just trying to take some of the emotion out of it. And if you've never calculated this, it is assets minus liabilities. So it's everything you own. It's all of your like liquid cash, checking, savings, CDs, um, any assets you own, house, car, anything like that. Life insurance, it's the current cash value of your policy. Tasha says top 3 money goals: fully fund our emergency fund, save enough for 3 months of expenses, and cash flow new car purchase. You know, I love this because I think that a really underrated goal is to get ahead, like a month ahead financially. Your second one here is save enough for 3 months of expenses, so you're basically like 3 months ahead of your spending. And I don't think people talk about that enough. Like sometimes you'll hear people say like, "Oh, I want to be a month ahead financially," but then it doesn't. That never is a goal for them. Like they're always like, it's not ever something that I hear people say that they've set as their goal, but that's a really good goal to have. So I love that. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, fully funded emergency fund for sure. Good one. And you said cash flow, a new car purchase as well. So cool. Cool, cool, cool. Cash. Um, so yes, calculating your net worth, it's all of your assets at the top, and then you subtract all of your debts, your obligations. So this might be personal loans, people you owe money to, like friends or family. It's the debt version of any assets you have. So like if you have a car loan, then your car loan goes on the bottom. Your mortgage balance goes on the bottom. Um, and then credit card balances, those are all your debts that go on the bottom of that calculation. So assets minus liabilities to come up with your net worth. And then the next thing that I have to say is figuring out how much cash do you need. It's important to pay off debt. It's important to, save money for whatever your retirement goals are or your whatever you're saving for. But also just thinking about how much cash do you need? How much cash do you need in your how much cash do you need in your sorry, I need to block somebody real quick. Okay. Um, how much cash do you need in your checking account? How much cash do you need in your savings account? How much do you need for short-term emergencies, short-term unexpected things like pet veterinary bills, that kind of thing. So that's one of the things that I recommend people do as they're just getting started paying off debt and saving money. Cecilia says, I just started doing my net worth 2 months ago and is really interesting. Previously, I was terrified, but now I feel like I'm on track for my age, 50. Yay, good. Okay. Yeah, that's excellent. It's a little intimidating, for sure. Like the first time that you added up how much, even just looking at how much money you owe total debt is pretty intimidating. So that's, a perfect first step for getting started. The other thing, okay, so 2 more things in getting started. One is picking out how you're gonna manage your money, determining what system you're gonna use for managing your money. So this might be finding an app that you can use or deciding that you're gonna use a paper journal and tracking your finances on paper, coming up with a plan for how you're gonna manage money. I know I've shared this on here before, but I love mint.com is a free tool for tracking your spending. Like you can link it up to your bank accounts and then your transactions all flow through Mint, even if you have multiple credit cards or multiple debit bank accounts, whatever, it all goes through there. But you can do it on a spreadsheet. You can do it on paper. There's lots of great ways to manage money. Also considering if you're going to do cash, if you're going to do cash envelopes or some kind of system like that. And then the last one that I have is a progress tracker. I believe it's called Debt Free Charts. I think it's debtfreecharts.com. You can go and you can print off a page that's like a visual tracker for your goals. And It's kind of funny to recommend these things because they seem so silly, to, like, have this little tracker that looks like a little map and you, like, color in a little section each time you save $50. But they are so helpful, and lots of my clients tell me, they're like, "This was a game changer, like, I really enjoyed having this little tracker and getting to fill in the thing," like, it's kinda like giving yourself a gold star, like, you can fill out a little chart and give yourself gold stars, for, like, no spend days during the month or whatever you're working towards. There's so many little ways like that that can make it a little bit more fun for you, and of course, what's fun is kind of different for everyone. So you can try a few of the different things and then kinda see what works for you. Sometimes things sound stupid, but then I love them. So I encourage you to just get a little out of your comfort zone and try to find some things like that that can make it a little bit fun for you. Another one that, I've used and like is Habitica. It's like a habit tracking app, and, you can go in there and, you, like, earn points, and then you can, like, battle. It's a little bit silly, but it's like gamifying your finances or whatever habit you're going up for. Alright, so that's all I had for getting started. Let me know if you guys had any final questions. I wanted to say one more time that um, I'm doing this thing for external accountability for you guys if you want. I have room in my 2023 money journal. And so if you want like some public external accountability for tracking your goals, whether that's like your debt balances, paying those down, or saving money, no spend days, even tracking your net worth if you want, um, email me, rocks@financerocks.com, and I will save a page for you in here. How it would work is the third day following each month, you would send me your data. I'll fill it in here, and by the 7th, I'll post a video and send you the link, so that way, like, everyone can see how you're doing on your goals on the channel here. And I mostly wanted to do this because I've heard other YouTubers say that having the channel provides them a lot of external accountability, and so it's very motivating for them. So I thought that I would, like, share that with you guys if you want to be in my journal. Yeah, pick 1 or 2 of those statistics, and then yeah, it's free, and I'm just looking for people for Q1 right now. I figure 12 months is a long time to commit, so you can just do the first 3 months of the year. So for January, February, and March, which means you would send me data on February 3rd, March 3rd, and April 3rd. I've said that a few times now, so um, yeah, and so it's free. So just wanted to let you guys know that's available. And I'd love to hear in the comments below if you're watching this after the fact, what are your 2023 goals? And then can you share one of the things that you're doing for your action plan? So that's all I had. And I'm just going to let you guys go. So thanks so much, you guys. I really appreciated having you guys here in the chat, and I will talk to you all later. Bye. Goodbye. Goodbye.